Does Monday at the office feel like a storm? Not with Microsoft Copilot. That feeling when Copilot gets everyone up to speed instantly? It's sunny again. When Copilot simplifies complex data so your teams can act, that sun's shining on a beach. And when Copilot uncovers hidden insights, you're on that beach with your people, and you find buried treasure. That's Microsoft Copilot. Learn more at Microsoft.com/AI for all.
It's only a kick, a jump, a block. It's only a serve. It's only a tackle, a run. It's only for the fans. After all, it's only pressure. You got this. Adidas.
This episode is brought to you by Hyperice, the leader in advanced warm-up and recovery technology. They have tons of innovative products, like Venom-heated wearables to help soothe sore back muscles, Normatec compression boots to speed up recovery and increase circulation, and Hypervolt massage guns to improve mobility. Loved by athletes like Naomi Osaka and Erling Haaland. Try them yourself. Get 10% off your order with the code MOVE at Hyperice.com.
Good evening, good morning, good sodding afternoon, wherever you are in the world. This is the Gary Kirsten podcast.
Whoop, whoop.
No, not really. This is Slogging It, of course. It's Slogging It. It's Jono, it's Eugene, and it is Robbo back with you, coming in your ears for another week. I had to say that because I've had a lot of love for that. Bit of a Peter Kay throwback almost, isn't it? Chorley FM.
Beautiful.
Hashtag Peter Kay. Coming in your ears. Anyway, welcome back to another episode of Slogging It. I mentioned Gary Kirsten because, I mean, just the love for Eugene's apparent lack of knowledge about anything cricket based on his pick of Gary Kirsten the other day has had huge amounts of airtime. And we've just been discussing it and just still laughing.
Can I tell you, in the fantasy league we're in, Gary Kirsten has won my club the league 4 times already. So, you know, you've got a lot of money. We've got a league. We've got trophies in our cabinet. So, just saying.
Well, there we go. It's a bit of a long distance pod this evening. Simon, where are you?
I'm in the joys of the Holiday Inn in Taunton, which is
Taunton.
fucking
Fine
miles
town.
away from anywhere. Just so everyone's aware, there is fuck all going on. There's a delightful cricket ground about 1.5 miles that way. Other than that, which
So for those listening and not viewing, Simon just pointed directly behind him to a picture on the wall in his hotel room.
And other than the cricket ground in Taunton, and what was apparently Europe, the former home of Europe's longest bar, which is a Wetherspoons in the middle of Taunton. But apparently Tottenham Hotspur's football ground, the bar in one of their things, was taken over. Apparently, sure, someone will ring in and tell me that's bollocks, but never mind.
Probably. Anyway, plenty to get through. Simon's got a new game for us that we'll be playing later on. Simon's almost a match-in from tail enders of the Slogging It podcast, coming up with ridiculous kind of loosely cricket-themed games that we can all have a go at, which we're very much looking forward to. But first of all, we want to talk about, you know, we've had a bit of time to digest, let's say, the India-England series and the hammering that we took. I suppose the question now that we're all asking ourselves, and no doubt you thousands upon thousands of listeners have been asking yourselves, is not what next, but almost who next for England. So we're going to talk about that for the next kind of, I'd say, half an hour or so before we move on to Stupid Simon's Stupid Game, and then we'll wrap it up from there, I think. Maybe we've just found the name for it. Forget what we were muddling through before. Stupid Simon's Stupid Game. Anyway, so Simon, another thing, you suggested this as a topic. So why don't you give the listeners a brief overview or rundown of what you're expecting this conversation to look like?
Well, it was more of a throwaway comment, to be fair. But I've been having a chat with some people about cricket, and things tend to run in couple of year cycles, don't they? Like with whether it's the Ashes, it's every 4 years, and we tend to start lining up for about 2 years out, and things like that. But we've had 2 years now of Bazball. I hate the phrase, but that's what everyone seems to want to call it. And I think following the fallout of this India series, which is no doubt in some aspects quite chastising for England, it was a bit of a throw out question to both of you, really, and to anyone that wants to answer it. It's like, who do we think Bazball has benefited within the England side? Who do we think it's been kind of a non-event for? And with the way the England team is at the minute, and with what's going off in county cricket, what's next for this England side? We've obviously got the seam attack is an easy place to go to with what's next, because a series in England where you're perhaps talking about Chris Wokes, who's 35, you're going to have Mark Wood, who's 34, you're going to have James Anderson, who's 948. So you've got this kind of thing, right? What is next? And it was like, I mean, I'll ask Eugene, like you as a bit of an outsider, Bazball, 2 years in, who do you think has benefited from it? And who do you think maybe it hasn't had the impact that you thought it might?
Can I just jump in before you answer that, Eugene? I would never refer to you as an outsider. I would refer to you as a neutral. Simon strikes again.
Or worse.
He's going to feel even fucking worse with the quid later.
Obvious. Yeah. The obvious outsider, the obvious person that this has not helped in the beginning when you look at stats is Joe Root. He, for some reason, changed his game instead of playing the Joe Root game as he's done and been so successful to do. Him trying to accelerate just didn't work, unfortunately. And, you can see that based on stats. The people it's worked for, though, you could argue it's just about everyone. I mean, the likes of the opening pair, Zach Crawley and Ben Duckett, they've been phenomenal. They reminded me a lot of, and I know that both were left-handers, but sort of the Langer-Hayden opening partnership, with the way they used to crack, the balls to all parts early on, and, sometimes scoring hundreds before lunch and all of that sort of stuff. So they remind me about that. Harry Brook is, I guess, another person that's really benefited, coming from the T20 era and now all of a sudden finding himself in there. I wouldn't say really anyone else when you think about it, because, Ben Stokes is doing what Ben Stokes does. I don't really think there's anyone else from my perspective anyway. So, Jono, what are your thoughts? You got any more names that you want to chuck in?
Look, he's had a quiet series in India, but I think arguably someone that it's freed up as much, if not more than most, is probably Johnny Bairstow. I think that, you look at the way in which over the last 2 years prior to this India series, Johnny's gone about the way, that to chase that score down. I think it was at Trent Bridge against the Kiwis, not last summer, the summer before, maybe it was last summer. I can't remember. But I think it's allowed a lot of, and we've talked about this a lot. Bazball is a mentality for us. That's the way that we look at it. It's not about the style of play. But that then has allowed, that's almost filtered through into the way in which the guys go about playing their particular innings. So I think one kind of feeds the other. I completely agree on Zach Crawley and Ben Duckett. With Joe, I think it's allowed him to bring more into his game. But obviously, that being caught a second slip is going to obviously haunt him, trying to play that reverse scoop off Jasprit Bumrah. So, look, I think that you can see through the upturning results that it's been a good thing for the English Test side generally. But I think the question that Simon poses very much about, okay, not rather what's next, but who next. I think that there's some very obvious candidates, and there's some very kind of obvious holes in the lineup, let's say. So I think Crawley and Duckett are set. I think Ollie Pope's got question marks. I think his quality and his talent is undoubted, but he's had some brilliant scores. Simon and I watched him score a brilliant 100 in South Africa a few years back. He's got all the talent and all the shots. He just doesn't quite look comfortable at 3 at the minute. And let's not forget, he's still a young man. So maybe that there's talk of that drop down to 5 or 6 and maybe being replaced with Stokes, who, in a weird way, it could bat at 3 because he's beginning to look quite circumspect at the start of his innings, with then the real ability to motor on after that. Johnny, how long's Johnny going to last? it'd be really interesting to see what they do with the wicketkeeper. You know, do they bring in James Rew? Do they bring in Jamie Smith? There's that other lad who's had a brilliant year last year, whose name I always forget, who they seem to really like, and a lot of good noise is being made about. But obviously, you know, the first thing that's going to need real solid change is the bowling attack, isn't it?
Yeah, you couldn't go much further than that as a bit of a concern for next time. I think obviously Jimmy Anderson, while he didn't necessarily get loads of wickets in India, I think he bowled very, very well. And when he comes back over and he's playing in England, he's a different prospect altogether. I have a concern around some of the others that were in and around that squad. I'm yet to be sold on Atkinson. I think I said this last time, and for me, he can bowl a quick ball, don't get me wrong, but he's not express on a regular basis. He's not Mark Wood. And then Ollie Robinson.
He's only played one Test match.
Yeah, but
he?
even
I mean, let's be honest.
But what? Yeah, but I think the other thing is maybe I'm typecasting him as that Mark Wood type of bowler, and maybe I ought to not be doing that. But that's the way they've been picking him. You look at the role he played in the sides he's played in, he's fulfilled that role, but I'm just not sure he's right for it. And he might go away, and if he bowls it, from what I've seen, he bowls it pretty much straight up and down. Yeah, he can bowl it quite quick, but he doesn't seem to do too much with it. I'm a bit worried, if I'm honest, because I think a lot of the guys that we've seemed to try to develop in the last 4 or 5 years have either flattered to deceive or have got injured.
Yeah. Or both in Ollie Robinson.
Or both. Like you think Ollie Stone, well, you think of the Notts bowling sack now. He's basically gone out and got everyone that got picked for England and then got injured. Notts then signed him. Whether it be Ollie Stone, whether it be Josh Tong. Like you look at these guys and they're going, right, hang on a minute. You look at those kind of the bowlers that they have brought in, even in the one day point of view. Reece Topley's obviously done all right recently, but he's had a massive bout of injury scares, injury worries. I don't know is the answer to the question. Potts looks a good bowler.
Do you bring Sam Curran back in?
Well, that's the thing. I think he's somebody that in English conditions, again, would then may do well, and he'll probably do well against the West Indies or that type of non-English pitchers. But is he going to travel around the world? And I mean, he's not going to be available for April, is he? Because he's going to be in the IPL. So we're not going to see him playing county championship cricket. So, right, but for me, you look at it and go, right, where is, like I say, the only one I can particularly think of is who's been impressive this winter is Potts. And then it's like, right, what else is there?
Here's an interesting thing. Do you think we've been slightly overcritical of the English bowlers? Because when you look at the Indian bowlers over that Test series that just happened, with the exception of Bumrah, who took 9 wickets, Shuraj only took 6. So when you look at it, do you think maybe we were just overcritical and we've just got to accept the fact that fast bowlers or medium fast bowlers, are not going to do very well in India, and that we should be looking at, the rest of them come the English summer, because they are going to be like the Scott Bolans and the Vernon Philanders, who are, rego mediums, but are able to nip it on the seam in conditions that suit them. So is that maybe is that the answer that we should be looking at and going, do you know what, it was a tough gig in India, put that behind us, and let's look forward to what the English summer is going to bring?
I think that's a very fair point, Eugene. A very balanced point, I'd say, and I commend you for it, quite frankly. But yeah, I mean, look, you need if we've got aspirations to become number 1 Test side in the world, which obviously every side has now, whether there's only ever very few make it, but you need bowlers who can bowl in all conditions. Now, India's probably, as Simon said last week, probably the flattest wickets we've seen in 20 years in India. So arguably, the argument's more about the batters not scoring enough runs than the bowlers. But, on Ollie Robinson, if he can stay fit, looks good in England. And because we play half of our games in England, it kind of almost inflates his value. But he's almost a bit of a Chris Wokes for me. You know, probably not as good as Chris Wokes. I'd probably rather pick Chris Wokes. You know, Chris Wokes could have done the job that Ollie Robinson did in India for a test. No question.
Well,
You know,
8 overs.
Um,
I could have done that.
Yeah.
And could he have scored?
Yeah, I couldn't have got 50.
I mean, well, I don't know, Simon. I've seen he score runs in the past. No, but you know, he's interesting. Like, you know, Ollie, a lot of injury problems. Reece Topley has become predominantly white ball, had a lot of stress fractures. Ollie Stone keeps going down with injuries, but bowls, you know, can bowl at 90 miles an hour. I think I think we're a little harsh on Gus Atkinson. I think he's still young. I think he's got something about him, and he needs to be allowed time to kind of find his feet at international level and then test level. You know, he's played very few white ball international games. He's played one test match. And I think they like him, and I think there's something about him. And he's probably the quickest on the scene at that age in terms of, you know, as a long-term prospect. He's quicker than Potts. You know, Potts had that great summer where he nicked off Kane Williamson about 715 times and bowled really well. But again, since a couple of injuries, you know, he bowled very, very well in the A side the other week, didn't he? There was only the two Durham lads. I think it was him and Braden Carse who got all the wickets in one game or one inning. But I think, you know, what other seamers have we got coming through? Like, you know, there's not, you know, we talk about it in terms of club cricket. Like, everybody is trying to find seamers, and there seems to be this absolute dirge of them at the minute. There's just no seamers knocking around. Like, you know, they do not grow on trees. Lads who can run up and let go of it at pace. It just doesn't. It doesn't seem to be in as much abundance as maybe it has been in the past, and so maybe the teams that are going to be successful are the ones that actually kind of realise that and then look to find a way of doing it differently, but doing it well all the same.
I think it's twofold. I wasn't necessarily like, obviously, yeah, there's plenty of room for Gus Atkinson to develop and improve. I'm not saying, I just haven't seen, everyone else seems to be giving him such high praise. But me personally, I haven't seen that in a performance from him or in a spell, or I've not seen that one thing that makes me. When Mark Woodstock came about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I can remember saying to one of our friends, I was like, this guy's got something. He bowled a spell. And I was like, there was something about him that made you go, right, hey a minute, this guy's got something. And yeah, he's had his injuries, and there's no reason that the guys who've had their injuries can't necessarily come back. My issue with the bowlers is, like you say, is they're all the guys we're talking about, other than maybe a Tong and a Potts and maybe an Atkinson. I don't actually know how old Atkinson is, but a third.
He's only about 23, I think.
A 30 plus. Robinson's 30. Like, these guys are 30 plus, and if you're not in getting in and knowing your work by 30, then you're struggling. To your point, Huge, about India and it being flat. We said it was flat. That's why we all said we thought Robert Anderson bowled well. Was the only guy. We all know the bowling wise, the difference was their three spinners compared to our spinners, and that's their three spinners are just world class spinners. As had played 0 tests and 0 tests, like before the series. Let's look at it from that. But I think that my thing is with the batting is you look at some of the young batters that we've got, and you can kind of see it. You can see where a Brook is fitting in, and you can see who he might be replacing when someone moves out. You've got young lads in and around that are scoring runs in county cricket, that are scoring big runs, and they're now going out and playing in these big tournaments and developing. My concern is from the bowling point of view, and yeah, I like I say, there's no reason that people can't stand up and come into it. I'm hoping, and I hope there'll be some younger guys that come in, some 19, 20-year-olds that maybe this year stand up, whether it's in the 100 or whether it's in and whatever. But another concern of mine is the fact that to be a quick bowler now and to want to play long format cricket, there is an amount of discipline that is involved in terms of what you're doing and a repetition that's required in order to be able to bowl those areas. And unfortunately, I think, and this comes on to the same aspects as we have with the spinners, when we're playing county championship cricket in when we're playing it, it's not conducive to a seamer that can run in and hit an area, hit the top of off stump, hit the top of off stump, and bowl 4, 5, 6 overs of hitting the top of off stump. Bowlers nowadays, if they haven't got a wicket in 3 balls, they want to do something different. And that comes about through variations. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing for bowlers to earn a living from. Short format cricket is no doubt the area where quick bowlers who bowl cutters, do all this kind of thing, can earn a lot of money. And I'm not going to take that away from anyone. But I think in the longer format game, even like a Bumrah, you watch Bumrah bowl and he does bowl 6, 7, 8 over spells where he runs in and peppers an area. And I think my concern is somewhere to do with the coaching, that this is what we're maybe getting away from a little bit as well. And so it's like you look at the leading wicket takers in county championship cricket the last 5 years. They've not been a 85, 86 mile an hour plus bowler. It's so. Are we breeding the?
So what we're saying is, get Graham Onions, Chris Rushworth, and Darren Stevens in the attack.
Well, I mean, having watched Darren Stevens bowl against Australia over 40s from the death in a game the other day, I think he went for 2 in the last over, and there wasn't much that wasn't in the block hole. So, but no, like it all comes up when we spoke last week about the development of spinners and stuff. Like it all comes about from we bet Chris Wright, for example, is still earning a living at 39, who bowls at 78 miles an hour.
Like David Masters, when he had that phenomenal career for Essex for years and years and years, and just bowled that channel.
And I'm not saying that they wouldn't be able to do that on slightly better wickets, because there is no doubt they have the skill set to sit and hit an area. And that is required at that level. But unfortunately, what you need is a 24, 25, 26-year-old who's learned that, but can still bowl it at 83, 84, 85, on a good day, get it up a bit quicker. And to go into that. So, it's just a concern for me.
Well, I think it's an interesting point. It's a very interesting conversation. Obviously, people do feel free to get in touch with us with your thoughts via Instagram, Twitter, X, info@slogging.co.uk, any of the mediums that are available to us for communication with our vast listener base. Please feel free to choose any one of them to get in touch. Right. So I'm really excited about this bit as the end of tonight's podcast. Stupid Simon's Stupid Quiz.
Getting engaged is a moment worth cherishing. A one-of-a-kind ring that you design at Blue Nile can help your love sparkle. Just choose your diamond and setting. When you've found the one, you'll get it delivered right to your door. Finding the right engagement ring can be nerve-wracking. At Blue Nile, you'll have the expert guidance needed and a diamond guarantee that ensures you're getting the highest quality at the best price. Cherish all of life's moments and save up to 30% at BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com.
Survivor 46 is here, and so is On Fire, the only official Survivor podcast, and we have a twist this season. The winner of Survivor 45, Dee Valladares, will be joining us every week.
We're going behind the scenes of the biggest moments, the how and the why things happen, and the strategy and analysis you can only get from someone like me, a Survivor winner.
Listen to On Fire, the official Survivor podcast, wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
Many people here will have heard of Snog, Marry, Avoid, or varieties of different games on other different podcasts. So I thought, you know what? We'll copy it and we'll just call it Simon's Stupid Game. But you've got to start one. You've got to have an X Factor, super sub, call him what you like. And then you've got to release one. We don't bench people in cricket. You get released. So we're starting on a common theme of the last few weeks. To bat for your life, a gritty left-hander. Option number 1, Justin Langer.
Oof.
Option number 2, Sir Alistair
Gary
Cook.
Kirsten.
And option number 3, the man,
Don't do it. Don't do it. There's a
the myth,
There's a
the legend, the hero of the podcast. Gary Kirsten.
I mean,
have mine. I'm gonna go.
look, I like the game. I like the game. However, within the last few months, last 6 weeks, probably it must be since Christmas, we have talked about the grittiest of gritty, like granite-faced South African left-handed openers who would go to battle and die for a Sunday League team rather than giving his wicket away in Dean Elgar, and you've put Gary Sodding Kirsten in front of him.
It's the first one. It's
Dean,
the first one.
I'm sorry,
It's
mate.
the first one.
It's the
And
first one.
I couldn't let our listeners down.
So, right, let's just get this straight. So we start one, we get to super sub one in,
yeah.
and then we got
sub.
to release one.
Concussion
And it's
sub.
Gary,
You face Joffre Archer.
right, it's Gary Kirsten.
Joffre Archer, Lord.
Gary,
One gets hit on the head. You've got one to start. If he gets donged on the dome, you've got one reserve. And one is in the Harris Garden having a beer. Which is it?
right. Okay. Eugene, we'll get yours out of the way because I think we all know where you're going.
Well, I'm going to start with Gary Kirsten.
What a surprise.
Super sub. Who were they again?
Alistair Cook, Justin Langer.
Super sub Justin Langer.
No chance. What is your
leaving
what's your
a
reasoning
knight
for
of the
that?
realm? He's a knight. He can bring a sword.
Yeah, but
now.
he's
Well,
he's
Justin Langer can't get knighted, right? I mean, he can get knighted. I'm just kidding. He invented Bazball.
Who?
Justin Langer. They just didn't call it Bazball. When you look at his strike rate back when he was batting, it was 5, 6 and over.
No, his was 1 and over, and Matthew Aiden's was 5 and over.
You picked a list of gritty left-handers, and you've decided that one's going to 5 and over.
Right. Well, I mean, we all know that Eugene's ridiculous at things like this. Eugene, I'm right. Okay. Right, straight away, Gary Kirsten, you're on the retirement heap. Off you go, Chief. Not interested. Thanks very much for all your service to South African cricket, but you're not getting anywhere near my 2 top spots. Now, I'm going to go for. I would open with JL because I think at the top of the innings he kind of got it away a little bit, and he could strike it. But super sub, how can you look any further than Sir Alistair? Because as the ball gets flatter, the bowlers get a bit tired and they start dropping the occasional one short, right? Either outside off or for the pull shot. Who would you want that's anywhere better? He's the perfect man. He's got the cover drive, a cut shot, and a pull shot.
Eugene has just thrown a wanker sign out at Jono there.
Not for the first time this week.
Right, I think the reason you picked to open the batting with JL is because I called it a concussion sub, and there is a man who's going to get hit on the head.
Well, not as much as Will Pekowski, but
well, nearly. I think if it was around back when JL was, I mean, he used to field it short leg, and I think at one point, Adam Gilchrist had the record for catches off Silly Point's head. He just kept getting filled in. Had a better header than Peter
beamed on the
Bleeding
dome.
Crouch. Right, I'm going to be the voice.
So
I'm going to
then.
be the voice of reason.
Oh, here we go.
On the bench,
If you say Gary Kirsten, I'm going to run down to Somerset and punch you.
On the bench,
Let the man talk.
coming in, if required, Justin Langer.
Oh, interesting.
Time's a crisis, isn't it? Now, which way do you want? Which story do you want me to tell next?
The one where you're leaving Gary Kirsten in the chewing grass in a field somewhere, retired,
Right, because
with a cardigan on.
because it's at Lord's against Jofra Archer.
Don't
Eugene
do it. Do not do it.
has dragged Gary Kirsten out the back into the Harris Garden and is plying him with drink.
Woo!
Opening the batting. He's the finest farmer to ever play cricket. Ridiculous record. The leading run scorer of any left-handed of any opening batter in the world. Sir, Lord, His Majesty, Alistair Cook. And the other two, and both of you are just wrong for having anything else.
Well, I mean,
Listen up next week for another Gary Kirsten-based trio.
yeah, all of these games are going to centre around
I've
Gary
already got
Kirsten.
next week's one done. I've got next week's one done.
I listened to it. There's a golf podcast called Chasing Scratch. And I think you've listened to it a bit, Simon. But they talk about Carl Weathers, who played, God rest his soul, who played Apollo Creed in the Rocky films. And they talked about him for years and years and years and years.
You've mentioned his least. You've not mentioned his most famous role.
Right.
He was Chubbs Peterson in Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, but I was just also referring to him in another way in which most people would know him. So I wasn't going to go through his entire IMDb sodding filmography, was I? Anyway, and they mentioned him, over the years and over the years and over the years. Anyway, they finally got to interview him, and then he died like 3 weeks later or something. It was his final ever interview. So yeah, hopefully, if we mention Gary Kirsten enough, we can interview him. But then hopefully, he won't die 3 weeks later.
Oh Christ, that's taking a turn.
I have a quick question. What do you think the difference between Justin Langer and Alistair Cook's average was?
Oh, here we go. Eugene's stat badger has been on it, just trying to prove himself right.
Does it matter? Because
Well, what was Gary Kirsten?
They're both 50 plus, weren't they?
No, I didn't mention Gary Kirsten.
Even Eugene's benched him now. I reckon they're both 54-ish, something.
No, they both average almost identical, by the way. 45.27 and 45.34. And yet you guys were just going, yeah, he's a pile of poo, old Langer.
Well, I didn't say that at all.
Well, have you know, Gary Kirsten averages 45.272.
I mean,
Yeah,
they're all very good players. I'm just saying.
What are the chances what are the chances that Langer and Kirsten average identical numbers?
He was a fantastic player. I'm just saying. He's not opening the batting if I'm having someone bat for my life, nor is he going to be my overseas player of choice if I had anyone on the planet ever. And I'm sure he would be absolutely comfortable. Certainly with the second option, he would be able to form an argument for the first, I'm sure. A fine 100 and however many it was he got against England that test when he batted for 9 days.
Before there was 5 test matches at a time.
Yeah, they got rid of timeless test matches because Gary Kirsten bored everyone to death.
A boat.
Anyway, well, look, Simon, stupid quiz, week 1 complete. Look forward to week 2.
Absolutely.
Excited to see what you've got in store. Now, I might not be around next week. It's very much depending on. So you're experiencing hotel Wi-Fi from Somerset. Well, Monday next week, I will be experiencing hotel Wi-Fi in India
at lunchtime.
As I'm going out there on
at lunchtime.
Yeah, business trip. It'll be late, won't it? It'll be like 1 o'clock in the morning for me or something crazy.
Oh, yeah, they'll all be off the Wi-Fi by then.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
There'll be nobody. You'll be the only person on the Wi-Fi. Before we go, guys, we do have to mention that we are reaching golf season. And as we support the Tavs, the first Tavs Golf Day is on the 10th of April. It's called the President's Day. It's at the fantastic golf course that is Tandridge. So, yeah.
What a golf course.
It is round the corner. So if you do want to get involved, either let us know or contact the Tavs directly. If you go to the website, you can have a look on their events page and you'll see that the President's Golf Day is there. So, yeah, definitely get involved.
Yeah, we need to start thinking about when we're going to convene for golf, don't we? But yeah, very well said, Eugene. Very well said. Yeah, the Tavern is wonderful, wonderful charity that they are. And yeah, look forward to doing a lot more with them as we progress through 2024. Right, that's it for tonight. I haven't eaten anything all day, and it is now 10 to 9 in the evening, so need to go and fix that. Pleasure to be with you as always, gentlemen. Thank you, Stupid Simon, for your stupid quiz. And Eugene, thank you so much, as always, dear boy, for your company. Until next week, cheers.
Adieu.
Bye.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.